Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be looking at our textbook, page 4. So I'm going to give you a moment there to turn to page 4 in our textbook. While you do that, I will show you online what page we're on. So we are going to look here. I'm going to turn to page 4. All right, I'll down here. So let's see here. I think I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. All right. So we're on page 4, and we're looking at reading strategies, things that will help all of us become much better readers. So if you can see up here, you see we've got, let's see here, if I do this, we got plan and monitor. Set a purpose before you read. Make predictions and then read on to confirm them. Figure out a confusing text by rereading or reading on. So these are just strategies. When we start reading a story, we think, why am I reading this? Well, my teacher assigned it to me. Okay, that's part of it. But you are also reading to gain the information, to gain the knowledge, to know what is happening. So you always got to keep that in mind. Think about your history class. You are reading it for the historical information. Your science class, you are reading it for the scientific information. For your math class, maybe you're reading it for the mathematical equations. So you always got to think, why am I reading this? Make connections. Sometimes you read a story and it reminds you of your own life. Or maybe it reminds you of your grandfather's stories. And readers, when we read familiar things like that, we understand the story much better. It gets into our brains a lot deeper. And so always be thinking, do I know a person like the character? Have I ever been in a similar situation? Visualize. That's where you can close your eyes and you can see the images in your mind. The words on the page create a picture for you to see. And the better you can visualize, the better you understand the story. Because if you can't imagine what's being talked about, it's really hard to understand what's being talked about. Make inferences. That's just a guess. An inference is a guess. Synthesize. Synthesize, where you're taking different ideas from all different areas and bringing them together. For example, maybe as you read a story, it reminds you of a TV show you watched. And then the story says something, you go, hey, you know what? My science teacher actually said something really similar to that. And you kind of put that together in your knowledge. And then you go, you know what? My brother told me a similar idea once. And you kind of build and you synthesize. You take all of these different ideas from all over your understanding and you put it together to get a new idea. Ask questions. Good readers are always wondering. They're looking at the text and going, I don't know what that means. I wonder what's happening. I wonder who this is. Because on the next page, you might get an answer. Or on the next page, you might find an answer that surprises you. And what you expected to happen didn't actually happen. Or maybe you're so confused, you go, you know what? I don't know what's going on. I'm going to turn the page back and I'm going to reread it. Okay? And then determining importance. Some things you don't need. Some things are very important. And you as the reader have to make that decision. What is most important as you read through? All right. So we are going to go ahead and start here with the demo text. And let's see. We'll just erase all this real quick. I wonder if there's a quick clear, but whatever. We're not going to worry about that right now. All right. So we're looking at the peer pressure. A little help from my friends. Right away, I make a connection there. I get by, little help from my friends, little help from my friends. Right? The Beatles? Anyone? Yeah? All right, moving on. Busted. It happened years ago, but the memory still makes me cringe. It was the last week of 8th grade, and most teachers were letting us goof off until graduation. My favorite teacher, Mrs. Serda, did not believe in goofing off. She believed in science enrichment projects. I thought the projects were kind of interesting, but everyone else was irritated about the work. During class, my friend Karen grabbed my yearbook. She circled a photo of an unpopular girl and wrote, "Most likely to become a cat lady." Karen passed the book to Avi, who circled another photo and wrote, "Most likely to morph into a crazed werewolf." He asked me, "What about you, Mr. Science Geek?" Everyone laughed. So as I start reading here, we got busted. Well, at this point in the story, I don't know anything, but it kind of stands out there as something important. It's kind of like this little title here and this heading. And so I'm going to make a guess. It's called Peer Pressure and Busted. My guess is his friends ask him to do something he doesn't want to do, and he gets caught. He gets busted. So as I read, I think about my own eighth grade experience. I think about when I get a yearbook and how my friends would sign the yearbook at the end of the year. Maybe you've had a similar experience. Okay. And then we get to this end, and they give him the book and they say, "Now your turn. Circle a picture and make a joke." Because that's what they've done. They're being mean. All right. So now we're going to be up here on this page. They were my friends, but I was seconds away from getting my own photo circled. I found Mrs. Serda's picture and scribbled, "Most likely to bore kids to death." Ignore that. Suddenly, the entire room was silent. My heart started pounding. "May I see your yearbook, Chris?" Mrs. Serda asked. She didn't punish me, but she was hurt and disappointed. That was even worse. Later, I confessed everything to my dad. He said, "I have a fun new enrichment project for you. It's about peer pressure." It was no fun, but I sure learned a lot. All right, so now we're going to pause here. And have you ever done something in class and then the teacher walks up right behind you and you're totally caught? So here, our main character, and we don't even know the character's name right now, but the main character says he wrote in his yearbook a mean comment about the teacher he likes. And the teacher sees it and she says, "Can I see what you're writing?" So I can totally imagine that humiliation, that looking over your shoulder like, "Hi, teacher." Oops. Under the influence. Peer pressure happens when people in a group influence individuals in the group to act in a certain way. The pressure isn't necessarily bad. Peers sometimes influence you to make good choices too. For example, my friends and I once started a book club to help Avi, who is failing English. We convinced him to read and to talk about books together, and it helped him a lot. Last summer, Karen signed up for baking class. We all teased her, but she persuaded two of us to join. It was the most fun we had all year. Dealing with negative peer pressure can be difficult, especially for young adults. According to the American Lung Association, more than 3 million American teens smoke, and 25% of the 17 and 18-year-olds in this report smoke daily. Why would intelligent teens choose such a deadly habit? For some kids, the choice may be influenced by peer pressure. Other reports show there may be connections between peer pressure and crimes like cheating or shoplifting. Sometimes peers can convince you to do things you would never do on your own. All right, so now we're kind of going to make a guess here, this idea of making an inference. And so it says here that we're going to guess that because they had the group, Avi is no longer failing English because the peer pressure helped him study and become a better student. Okay? We might make other inferences. For example, it gives us some statistics here, right? It's telling us some information. And the whole rest of the story so far was just a story about this kid at school. But now we're getting this information. So now we have to guess, why is this information here? Does it support the story? How did they go together? So we want to be thinking like that. All right. And that's the idea here of synthesize. We are synthesizing the facts. And maybe you've heard similar statistics. And so we're going to combine this to make a new thought. All right, let's finish up. The power of no and yes. It's tough being the only dissenting member of a group when you don't agree with everyone else. You might get labeled a loser, no fun, or even Mr. Science Geek. What do? When I'm in a tricky group situation, I remember the consequences of Mrs. Serda's incident. Then I think of the consequences of the current situation. After all, your friends don't have to live with the consequences of your decisions, but you do. Even in a group, we're all individuals with our own thoughts, ideas, and good judgment. If something doesn't feel right, I say one small but powerful word: no. The group usually respects it. Occasionally, it makes my friends think about their own decisions too. Who knows? Maybe I can be the peer who influences people to say yes to something positive. It doesn't hurt to try. All right, and then we get to the bottom here, and it says that I determine the importance by finding the main idea. So we have this idea of peer pressure. We started off with peer pressure, and his friends are all making jokes, and they're all drawing in the yearbook. And then he gets caught. And then his dad gives him a consequence. And I say his. I don't actually know if it's a boy or a girl. I don't think that is clear. It could be a her, which is fine. His dad gives him a consequence, which we don't read about right away. We read about the consequence up here. This dad has a project for him. But then we skip and we kind of change. And so I'm a little bit confused and I'm not really sure what's happening. So maybe I'm asking some questions about like, well, what was the consequence and what's going on? Now we get to the idea here. When you don't agree with everyone else, what should you do? The dad said, you have to say no. That's a powerful word. When people are asking you to smoke and you know it's deadly, say no. When friends are asking you to make fun of someone and you know that's wrong, say no. All right. So I want to ask questions and I constantly want to be thinking about that. And then we get to the end here. What's the whole point of the story? What is this about? Okay. What is the main idea? All right. I'm going to leave that there for you to figure out. Hopefully you've got an idea. All right. Okay, so that is the story. A couple things here. When we read, and we went over this, we're doing all these reading strategies, okay? Also, we want to be aware of vocabulary. So the first word here, we have the word cringe. Cringe. If you don't know the word cringe, you're going to have to look it up because that's what good students do. And let's see here. Where was another one that might be? Maybe the word morph. If you don't know what the word morph means, you're going to have to look it up. That's okay. You probably have your Chromebook or your cell phone, and you can look up any number of dictionaries, or you just go to Google and put define morph. Okay? If you don't know what a werewolf is, you might want to look that up. So be aware of those kinds of things. Know what you are reading, and know what you don't understand. If there's a word you don't know, pay attention to that. All right. I think we're going to stop it there for now. Okay. All right. I don't know where it just went. Hopefully still. All right. Bye.